Добрый день.
Dear colleagues and guests, good morning. We are starting the session of the Dissertation Committee, but we're starting it with a short technical break. Thank you.
Коллеги, внимание, технический...
Dear colleagues, the technical break is over and we're starting our session, restarting our session. Today, the 27th of October 2021, 11:09 Moscow time. Let me start the session of the Dissertation Committee dedicated to the defense of the dissertation by Marina Pavlovna Agafonova, seeking an academic degree of candidate of philological sciences in the degree field 10.02.19, Linguistic Theory, on the topic of dynamics of Tajik-Russian interference in the use of suprasegmental items and various speech acts, by the act of the Academic Secretary of St. Petersburg University, Alexander Valentinovich Gnatov, dated 13th of October 2021. I, Chernigovskaya Tatiana Vladimirovna, Doctor of Biological and Philological Sciences, Professor, corresponding members of the Russian Academy of Education, Director of the Institute of Cognitive Studies, St. Petersburg University, head of the Department of the Problems of Convergence of Natural Sciences and Humanities, St. Petersburg University, was appointed chairperson of this Dissertation Committee. And I would like to now announce the names of the other members of the Dissertation Committee. Polinaria Sergeyevna Vrutina, Doctor of Philology, Professor of the Department of Theory and a methodology of teaching languages and cultures of Asia and Africa, St. Petersburg University. Svetlana Viktorovna Androsova, Doctor of Philology, Department of Foreign Languages, Amur State University. Can you see and hear us? Because Svetlana Viktorovna is online with us in a remote mode. And Elena Valentina Yerofeeva, also in an online communication with us. Yerofeeva, Doctor of Philological Sciences, Professor, Head of the Department of Theoretical and Applied Linguistics, Perm, State National Research University. Can you hear us here? Yes, I can. And Manisha Barakovna Davlatmirova, Doctor of Philology, Professor of the Department of Theoretical and Applied Linguistics at the Faculty of Foreign Languages, Russian Tajik, Slavic University, Tajikistan. Can you hear and see us? Yes. The applicant is Marina Pavlovna Agafonova. She is with us. Can you hear and see us? Sure. Also attending the session, participating in the sessions, is the academic advisor, supervisor of the dissertation, Doctor of Philological Sciences, Professor of the Department of Phonetics and Methodology of Teaching Foreign Languages, Pavel Anatolievich Skrelin, St. Petersburg University. In order to improve the quality of communication, please, dear colleagues, who are those who are online with us, turn off your microphones, but don't forget to turn them off when you're given the floor. Also, I would like to inform you that there's an ongoing audio and video recording going on of this session, accompanied by simultaneous interpretation between Russian and English. Also on the website, and it's broadcast on the website of St. Petersburg University. Also there you can find an email address where you can send messages that have to do with the dissertation or the academic discussion, and therefore you can take part in the academic discussion that will ensue. These questions will be relayed to me by technical services, and I will read them during the discussion. questions must have direct relation to the academic discussion, the dissertation, and should be signed with an affiliation. The questions that have no relation to the dissertation or the presentation or anonymous questions will not be read. In accordance with the procedure of awarding academic degrees of Candidate of Sciences and Doctor of Sciences in St. Petersburg University, a session of a dissertation committee is legitimate if not less than 2/3 of the established membership of the dissertation committee, but not fewer than 4 people are present. Our dissertation committee consists of 5 people, or 5 people are present, including 3 members of the dissertation council committee in the Zoom connection with us. Well, I would like to ask the member of the Office of the Station Council Support, who is the curator of the defense, start a register attendance list, attendance register in accordance to the protocol. The agenda is as following. First, the duration of the session will be not more than 2 hours. It will consist of a short presentation by the chairperson about the paperwork that has been submitted by the candidate, 5 minutes. A short presentation of the applicant, approximately 15 minutes, on the key issues of the dissertation. Third, questions to the applicant, strictly on the presentation, not more than 2 minutes per question. The candidate will answer, 5 minutes for all answers. 5, all members of the dissertation committee will take turns giving their assessment of the dissertation, 10 minutes per speaker. 6, the presentation of the review by the chairperson, 10 minutes as well. Answers of the applicant, 20 minutes relating to the questions and critical remarks and the reviews. Open formal floor discussion, 2 minutes per speaker, but only those who have registered in the logbook will be able to make a comment or speak or ask a question. Number 9, the chairperson will read any questions that have arrived at the email of the dissertation committee on the website of St. Petersburg University. And I would like to also stress that that questions that would take more than 2 minutes to read will not be read. Number 10, answers of the candidate, 2 minutes per question, not more. A presentation of the statement from the academic supervisor, not more than 3 minutes about the candidate, and a discussion by the committee members before an open roll call vote. 5 minutes, broadcast can be switched off. Open roll call voting, and then the counting of vote, and entering the results into the minutes, and then the decision, taking of decision, and then the concluding statement by the candidate, not more than 2 minutes. Any objections? No objections. Well, before we start, please, all those present here, switch off your telephones. As far as the the members of the Dissertation Committee who are in the remote mode with us, please don't switch off your telephones for emergency communication with you. And I'm starting the first item on the agenda, the dissertation of Marina Pavlovna Agafonova, seeking an academic degree of Candidate of Philological Sciences and the degree field 1002/19th Linguistic Theory on the topic the dynamic of Tajik-Russian interference in different types of speech in the use of suprasegmental units was accepted for defense on the 11th of August 2021. Marina Pavlovna Agafonova wrote her dissertation research in St. Petersburg University as a doctoral student, supervised by the Doctor of Philological Sciences professor of the Department of Phonetics and the methods or methodology of teaching foreign languages, St. Petersburg University, Pavlovna. The number of publications, according to the paperwork I have, numbers 3 in the refereed approved by the Ministry of Education, Science, Russian Federation, 3 publications. According to my data, all the paperwork that has been submitted complies with the requirements, and all the documents are kept in the file, the personal file of the candidate, and they are available from the member of the Office of Dissertation Committee support. Do you have any questions of a general matter to the candidate? Do we need to go over the whole list of the documentation? No need to run through. If no comments or objections, then Marina Pavlovna, the floor is yours. Dear Chairperson, dear distinguished members of the Dissertation Committee and colleagues, you can see the topic of my research on the slide, the dynamics of Tajik-Russian interference in different types of speech and the implementation of suprasegmental units. In our time today, when the process of globalization is taking place, the problem of bilingualism has acquired special significance. Separate by the main ethnic group, native speakers constantly come into contact with the people around them. Thus, people of different ages who come to Russia from other countries read, speak, and write in Russian at schools, universities, and at work, but in every day they prefer to speak their native language to their loved ones. In this case, the national accent is expected and inevitable. The skills of the native language are transferred to the other language, which can be traced in speech in the form of deviations from the Russian norm. Bilingualism is a fairly common phenomenon among residents of Tajikistan, so undoubtedly the influence of the native language on speech of residents of Tajikistan in Russian. In this work, dynamics of manifestation means the degree of severity of the features of phonetic interference in speakers of different age categories, depending on the length of time they have lived in an environment where they speak a language that is not native to the speaker. In this work, it was hypothesized that the severity of phonetic interference can change as the second language is mastered, and the duration of residence in an environment where a foreign language is spoken for a speaker is a decisive factor that equally affects the frequency of manifestation of all the revealed features of pronunciation in the suprasegmental level. The purpose of the study is to obtain a detailed description of the features of spontaneous speech and reading of bilingual speakers during the implementation of suprasegmental unit, and to identify the dynamics of the manifestation of these features. To conduct the research was necessary to record the material of spontaneous speech and reading in Russian by speakers for whom Russian is the native language. To study the dynamics of the manifestation of phonetic interference, it was necessary to obtain speech samples of speakers living in the territory of the Russian Federation for different periods of time. Native speakers of the Tajik language aged 9 to 50 were involved in the recordings. The total playing time of the records is about 295. The object of research is the manifestation of phonetic interference in the speech of bilinguals in a native speaker. To obtain samples of reading, the speakers were asked to read the text that reflects the most typical realizations and combination of Russian phonemes. Russian were asked to read an excerpt from the book by Edward Ouspensky. To obtain spontaneous speech interviews with announcers were conducted. The topics of the interviews questions were family, study plans for the future. The duration of dialogues was not limited by anything. The announcer's answers to the questions of his interlocutor, their interlocutor, were recorded. The material was recorded at the recording studios of the Department of Phonetics in Pittsburgh University. The material research was recorded so the speakers could be divided into 4 age groups: children from 9 to 13, students from 19 to 23-year-olds, adults 21 to 30, adults from 30 to 50. So in the course of the work, 7,140 syntagmas and more than 8,467 words were selected. For each syntagma, the type of intonation structure was determined according to the classification of SO'd. In the overwhelming majority of cases for his task, both types of analysis were used simultaneously, both auditory and instrumental, since it was this research technique that turned out to be the most appropriate. To analyze the features of stress, an auditory analysis was carried out. The duration of vowels and words, the intensity of features of the reduction were instrumentally analyzed. The subject of the research was the interference pattern arising from the mutual influence of the systems of the Russian Tajik languages. In the purpose of verbal communication, suprasegmental characteristic speech can play a very significant role. The specificity of speech of a separate group of bilinguals can be manifested in the implementation of the melodic component, intonation, and the implementation of verbal stress. Interference at the level of intonation makes speech difficult to understand. Intonational errors can lead to semantic change as well as to create the wrong impression of the speaker. In teaching intonation, one of the most difficult aspects of teaching a foreign language, it is noted that intonation is the most difficult to learn, especially at the elementary. One of the expected features of the Russian speech of native speakers of Tajik language is the transfer of word stress. Stress is understood as the highlighting by some acoustic means of one of the syllables in a word. Therefore, a feature found in the speech of announcers is an increase in the main tone and the intensity on the post-stressed syllable during the implementation of the longer duration of the stressed syllable characteristic of the Russian language. Even the announcers who have lived in Russia for a short amount of time speak Russian at a sufficient level to avoid mistakes and stress, not to transfer to the last syllable. The analysis of the results obtained made it possible to trace the absence of dependence of the degree of manifestation of this feature on the amount of time spent by the speaker in an environment where they speak a foreign language for the speaker. Most of the mistakes were made in reading by children aged 9 to 10 years living in Russia for less than 2 years, 20% and 30% of erroneous implementations respectively, and young people aged 25 and 29 living in Russia for less than 3 years, 17 and 12 respectively. Errors are often caused by the fact that the speaker was unfamiliar with the word in the text for reading. They are not systematic. Of the 16 people who were invited to participate in the experiment, 12 refused, explained their refusal by the fact that they do not understand the question and do not know what stress is. Only 4 auditors who had lived in St. Petersburg for 3 and 7 years were received answers to questions. An excerpt of the table with the results of the experiment is presented on the slide. Thus, in the word "at school," with equal duration of stressed and post-stressed vowels, and an increase in intensity on the post-stressed vowel, 3 out of 4 respondents recognized the last symbol as stressed. And at the same time, 2 of them answered that the speaker correctly implemented the stress in this word. The tonal component of word stress in the Tajik language can be the reason for the implementation of a feature identified in the speech of the speaker. A shift in the intonation center to a post-stressed syllable or sonant following the stressed vowel, while the syllable is not necessarily the last in the word. The shift in of the intonation center to the sonant or the next syllable is realized in syntagmas with incomplete intonation and in the general question. An example of the feature shown on the slide. In Russian, the intonation structure, the vowel of the center is pronounced with an ascending tone about the level of the pre-center part. At the end of a vowel, the tone is given as order 7. Another feature is revealed in the speech of the announcer is a dynamic increase in the frequency of the fundamental tone along with the vowel intonation center without achieving an even tone. You see that in the speech there's a slide where in the speech of this speaker, according to the speaker, Russian is the main language in which he speaks. Half of the realizations in both spontaneous speech and reading are implemented without shifting the IC in those cases where it was possible. 48% of realizations in spontaneous speech and 51 readings. Transference to a sonant or stressed syllable in the speech is much less common, 6% and 9% of realization in spontaneous speech. However, in the speech of speakers living in Russia for less than 5 years, the implementation of syntagmas with the transfer IC to the next syllable was more frequent than the implementation of syntagmas with the norm. So you can see that for the in the experiment, 17 phrases were selected with IK3 realizations in the speech of bilingual speakers with a shift of the IC by a post-stressed syllable. 3 phrases were selected in which, as a result of auditory and instrumental analysis, minimal deviations from the norm at the segment level were revealed. This is it was suggested to listen to these phrases twice for each to answer the question, is the Russian language native to the speaker? In the first part of the experiment, the auditors were university students aged 17 to 19 years. For the second part of the experiment, the auditors were people over the age of 40. The auditors of over 40 years old have just as successfully marked phrases spoken by native speakers as phrases of speakers for whom Russian is their native language. But however, the phrases of the announcers who spoke Russian from childhood were not considered by all auditors to be phrases spoken by people for whom Russian is their native language. The phrases of speakers with more pronounced features of the rhythmic organization of speech were recognized as phrases of speakers for whom Russian is a foreign language. Most of the phrases of the rest of the speakers were labeled by the auditors as phrases in a foreign language. So in the example shown on the slide, 86% of young auditors recognized the phrase as spoken by a speaker in their native language, but 60% of auditors over 40 recognized the stimulus as a phrase pronounced in a foreign language. The result obtained in the course of instrumental study of the speech of speakers of different age categories allow us to assert that a shift in the intonation center is not a characteristic feature of exclusively young speakers, in particular in the reading of a 50-year-old speaker who lives has lived for 6 years in Russia. More than 50% of syntagmas were implemented with a shift in the IC. Another feature is this. In Tajik languages, this syntagma consists of several accent units, each of which has a local peak in the pitch frequency. Each accent unit is realized at a level lower than the previous one due to the declination, a gradual decrease in the main tone throughout the utterance. The usual accent unit consists of one significant word and possible clitics. There's also an announcer's variability in the organization of AE. One of the features of the speech of bilingual speakers is the implementation of several A's and the syntagma with the design of the peak of each of them as IK3, which leads to errors in syntagmatic division. And the study of the inventory of intonation structures in the speech of the speakers was complemented by factors associated with the specifics of spontaneous Russian speech, such as false starts, additions, repetitions, corrections, pauses, and hesitation. The definition of the type of intonation structure was carried out with a combination of auditor and instrumental analysis. This slide shows that some intonation construction coincide in form but have different functions. For example, in the Russian language, IK4 serves to convey different meanings. A similar intonation construction in the Tajik language is realized only when enumerating. For each syntagma in the material, the type of intonation model was determined according to the classification as ode. This slide shows that the repertoire for intonation structures in the speech of a Russian speaker and his family is quite wide. The spontaneous speech, the speaker uses intonation constructions that do not coincide in function with the in the Tajik language. In the speech of the announcer who has lived in Russia for only 6 months, intonation constructions which have no analogues in the Tajik language were not implemented. to answer the questions, the questions, the analysis of the results obtained allowed us to trace the absence of dependence of the proportion of intonation structures that do not coincide in function with a similar construction in the Tajik language, on the amount of time spent by the speaker in an environment where they speak a foreign language. Pearson's correlation coefficient for the data obtained in the analysis of the linear relationship between the proportion of the use of intonation constructions, which are not similar in the Tajik language, and the duration of residence in Russia was minus 0.12, and reading in spontaneous speech minus 0.09. The tightness of the linear connection can be called weak. In the children age category, the speech of the announcers was often emotional. The children tried to read the text with expression, even if it caused difficulties, and a wide range of intonation patterns were used in spontaneous speech. And the Pearson's correlation coefficient for the data obtained in the analysis of the linear relationship between the proportion of the use of intonation construction, which are not similar in the Tajik language, and the duration of residence in Russia was minus 0.15 in reading, weak tightness of the linear relationship in spontaneous speech 0.83, high density of linear communication. The speech of bilinguals who speak Russian in the family has a wide range of intonation structures used. Thus, the following features were identified. The transfer of stress in the Russian speech of native speakers of the Tajik language is not systematic. Errors are often caused by the fact that the speaker was unfamiliar with the word in the text for reading. A shift of the intonation center is realized in the implementation of the intonation structures of IK3. Errors in the syntagmatic division of sentences are caused by the organization of the syntagma in the native language of the speakers. Each phonetic word forms a separate syntagma. The study of the dynamics of the manifestation of these features allows us to assert the most stable feature revealed in the speech of all age groups of bilinguals is a violation of syntagmatic division. The shift of the IC to a post-stressed syllable or sonant is more often realized in the speech of the age categories up to 30 years old, since the age category is influenced by the peculiarities of speech of Russian-speaking peers. As a result of the statistical analysis of the data obtained, a weak closeness of the linear relationship was revealed between the number of years lived by the speaker in Russia and the functional increase in the inventory of intonation structures in the speech of the speakers. There are few implementations of constructions that do not have phonologically similar equivalent in the Tajik language. From the results obtained can be concluded that the initial assumption was only partially confirmed. The severity of the phonetic interference changes as the second language is mastered, and the duration of residence in an environment where a foreign language is spoken by the speaker is an important factor affecting some features of pronunciation. In particular, there is a moderate tightness of the linear relation between a decrease in the number of realizations with a shift in the intonation center by a post-stressed syllable in the number of years lived in Russia. This work is valuable material for practical and theoretical purposes. New information was obtained about those characteristics in the Russian pronunciation norm, the distortion of which turns out to be quite pronounced in the speech of Tajik speakers who have recently moved to a foreign language environment. It can be used in teaching Russian to bilinguals. The first question to the speaker: well, you have a very good work. I like it. Why do you think the duration of living in the Russian environment has such a low impact? There's a small impact Well, this is very hard to understand and explain. So the initial settings were so strong that they cannot be moved by even this. And my question is, we see that that young people's prosodics have changed. When we meet a freshman on the 1st of September, and we listen to them why they've joined the university, Professor Bandarka said, why do you have such intonation? Why do you speak this way? My question is, why? Why is this such a strong feature? After years of living in another auditory environment, different instrument cannot change that. So your data show that young adults and adults give different assessments. This is a very interesting fact that the prosodics are such a powerful instrument. When you go abroad and spend some time, not years, but a short period of time, you catch yourself, if you can hear it, that the prosodics has changed. Prosodics have changed in you, and the gestures have changed. And well, a child in the womb can hear a lot because sound penetrates, and what the baby hears is first the prosodics, and prosodics. Maybe this is a very important basis, evolutionary, very old, and it is such a powerful source that even life experience cannot disturb it. Well, what do you think of it? Errors on the segmental movement make the speech incomprehensible, and therefore, if people don't understand speakers, native Russian speakers, they of course have to work on it, and their work demands this. So therefore, But if communication is achieved, understanding is achieved, then they stop because successful communication is achieved, and they don't work on improving their intonation anymore. That's a good answer, and this says that tells us that this is an instrument that you can change only upon reflection, if they decide to change that. And then you turn to professionals, or you do it yourself. Your answer, correct answer. If there's no necessity, they don't do that. But why does it happen? Does it not happen automatically? Why do they not catch? Why do they not catch? Well, Tajiks speak in the family in Tajik, and they speak in the diaspora with Tajik language with their friends, so they're not immersed completely in the Russian environment. They switch on this comprehension when they study or work, but then they switch it off when they go back to their family environment and to their community. Do you have any questions any other questions to the? I have a short question. Dear Apollinaria Vrutin, member of the Station Committee, professor of St. Petersburg University, Doctor of Philology. I like your work. It's very relevant. I will say that in my review. I have a question. I'm a specialist of Oriental languages. I've always thought about polylingualism in Central Asia. It was relevant many centuries ago, and now it's relevant even now. Now too, of course, because we have to approach this trilingualism or bilingualism. You have to speak these languages. Do you speak? No, I don't speak Tajik, but I didn't analyze the speech in Tajik, and I analyzed only Russian samples in Russian. So therefore, because I speak Russian, but I only analyzed the Russian. If you don't speak Tajik, so you didn't compare the syntagmas in Tajik and Russian. No grammatical analysis I haven't done, or phonetic, because in the future it would be interesting to compare the phonetic syntagmas. Yes, in the future would be great to study. Do you have any other questions to the Androsova Svetlana Viktorovna? Well, it's for the protocol. Androsova Svetlana Viktorovna, member of the Dissertation Committee. Please, did you see any dependence between the level of command of intonation and the realization of tegmental units? I haven't studied the segmental units as for further research, but in the speech of speakers, the shift, those people who have a grasp of segmental units, the shifts occurred less often, and intonation was better. The shift to the central intonation center. Yes, thank you. Are you satisfied with the answer? Yes. If there are no more questions, then we turn to the next part of the agenda, the first item. Members of the Station Committee now have a chance to present and the chairperson's reading and outside reviews. Just to inform you that these reviews have been published on the website and for a long time have been there, and so everyone decides for themselves. But I suggest that you should not read the whole review, but focus on only the main parts, if you agree. But it's your right to read the whole review. The first, Apollinaria Sergeyevna will read her degree, her review. The research tackles the issue of polylingualism, and in Central Asia, people have lived in this environment of polylingual environment, and because Muslim and Arabic and Muslim culture has influenced, so their Turkic languages, Russian and English now, and in the Middle Ages, Arabian and Persian, Turkic language, and Samarkand, Bukhara, and Tashkent, and Dushanbe. People speak Tajik, Uzbek, and Russian, and even English, and even Arabic. The issue of polylingualism is not very well studied, and therefore our Russian researchers, because of this, the cooperation with Central Asia and the traditional links to Central Asian nations, Russian researchers pay more attention, and this is a very to this area, and this area is very relevant, even in the research review, the research review, the literature. We see some parallel studies that tackle the same thing, but there hasn't been a single research study where the comparison of Russian and Tajik was tackled, so it was very relevant. We must point out to the interdisciplinarity of the research, and phonetics research methods and statistical research methods are used. And what I would like to mention is not critical remarks. There may be suggestions. I like the topic of your research. I would like to see in the future you formulate conclusions for each chapter, and phonetic study is there, but phonologic process are the basis, and phonetics research is there, but there should be more of this. And the second suggestion, I asked you whether you speak Tajik, but the problem of polylingualism is deeper in Central Asia than the interference of or impact of Tajik and Russian language, because in Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, in this Kalpak Uzbek is spoken, and all these migrants represent these minor nations, and they speak Russian to a various degree. Maybe they don't speak Tajik as such. The dialectal situation in this situation, and in Uzbekistan, the dialect situation is very important in these countries. I speak with Uzbeks because they are Turkic language speakers. With Tajiks, I sometimes communicate as well. The phonetics is different in Russian. The prosodics are different in Russian, because these prosodics are different in their native language. Speakers usually take a new language through the prism of their mother tongue, and So borrowed phonological elements function according to the same rule as the units in the Tajik. Well, very interesting. Tajik families from Dushanbe, well educated, belong to a higher strata of Tajiks, where Russian is at the level of a mother tongue, because they speak Russian, and they are Tajiks and Russian. They don't have Russian relatives, and so these children are bilingual completely. And I would like this could be another thing. Well, you also said you also don't discriminate bilinguals with acquired second language and bilinguals with mother tongue, second mother tongue, and well, these are my critical remarks. They're not conceptual, so so to speak. This could be suggestions for further research. I think that the main just to conclude the dissertation of Maria Pavlovna Agafonova on the topic on the dynamic of Tajik-Russian interference in Russian types of speech in the use of suprasegmental units corresponds or meets the main requirements of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I'm not defending the station. I would answer some of your questions in terms of sign. Yes, I will. Do you want to answer in all of the committee members? Yes. So as I said, the second reviewer, Svetlana Viktorovna Adrosova, please. Thank you very much. I assess this work totally positively. It has a lot of pluses, good illustrative material, good use of statistical methods, and drawing upon the classical norm, but young people's norms. And the first question, when you forecast the interference, why didn't you think about what constructions would be completely different in the Russian? Because you built a hypothesis would be similar, but what would be different? You didn't forecast. But well, you said that the number of years of living in Russia doesn't make a great impact, and hypothetically, the number of years must have an impact. And in some of your conclusions, this actually is supported. This actually is true. The next thing, in spontaneous, when you compare spontaneous speech and in reading and spontaneous speech has fewer errors than reading. Well, you said because in the text for reading there were words that they didn't know, but maybe there was something else. But as far as the stress, not all Russian speakers know what stress is. So maybe you should develop an experiment for naive respondents, they who don't need to know what stress is. And as far as the drawbacks of they're very particular, and they don't have impact on the. I would like to congratulate on the translation that you've carried out, but in some excerpts I have some issues with it, but other than that, on the whole, it's very good. Well, there's enough publications in the journals of needed status, so that requirement is also met, and therefore my conclusion is that the candidate Agafonova Marina Pavlovna deserves being awarded an academic degree of philology in philology, candidate philology. And I would like to give the floor now to Elena Valentina Yerofeeva. I looked at this at this work not from a phonetic point of view, but a linguistic point of view. And this work reflects all the work that continues this tradition of some research that is conducted in the phonetics department of St. Petersburg University. But it's broader because it introduces sociolinguistic context of changing the dynamics of phonetic norms. Therefore, the relevance is not only in the subject of the study, but also in the object of study, but also in the subject of study, because it includes a study of interference in a broader context. All the points of theoretical significance, originality, and practical significance are all there in this work. But I will say just theoretical significance. First, it fills in some intonational system gaps in the Tajik language. The study of that. Then there's a difference between spontaneous and reading, spontaneous speeches and reading, very important. And then she shows the interference reflecting the differences in ages. This is a very system of respondents. This is a very important feature of the work. I think that there's a very important point here. When you analyze stable and very variable accent features, this the study allows us to analyze this phenomenon from the point of view of systemic language, but from the point of view of social and linguistic points of view. For a sociolinguist such as myself, the organization of accent characteristics in spontaneous speech is very important. So comparison with in reading with reading patterns. I think for speakers of many languages, reading out loud is a very rare activity. Normally, people who do it professionally do that, but in everyday life we don't do that. Children do that, but this study therefore nevertheless shows the weak points of the individual command of Russian, and there's a trend that the number of years that the speakers have lived here, the duration of life in Russia influences their command of the Russian language only if these speakers found themselves in Russia at an early age. If people arrived in Russia at a later age, however many years they've lived in Russia, this doesn't change their speaking patterns. And I think this is this also manifests the tolerance of Russian society towards different accents, because variability of accents in Russian dialects is quite wide as well. I would like to stress that practical importance of this research is not only for teaching Russian language to non-native speakers, but also as a system of identifying the nationality of the speaker. Well, as far as the my critical remarks, I have some questions and critical remarks. First one is, of course, when you chose respondents, in many cases you used natural selection reasons, basically a lack of other respondents, but I think that it would be good if different age groups would be balanced in the number of speakers. The second one is the author for perceptive experiments. She selected fragments in which minimal phonetic interference on segmental level was detected, and so my question is, how can we be sure that the informants or the respondents assessed suprasegmental traits of the accent when they assess the stimulus, including even minimal accent features in segmental units. The third one is, I think, unbalanced organizational structure of the work is evident. The first chapter has no subsections, so the second has subsections of the first level, and the third chapter has subsections even down to the fourth level. And a small remark on the use of the term idiom is a variant of language, the status of which is difficult to identify, or it is unimportant, and this is actually confusing it with the similar term of the idioma as a set expression. So that's the comparison of the Russian idiom and idioma. And as far as the fifth is the definition of interference, which is given on page 30, doesn't take into account a situation when all speakers are oriented at the bilingualism rather than at keeping their language, the second language, as their second language. And nevertheless, my evaluation of the station is quite high, and I believe that Marina Pavlovna Agafonova deserves to be awarded an academic degree of candidate of philological sciences in linguistic theory. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elena Valentinovna. Thank you. Then I would like to give the floor to Manizha Barakovna Davlatmirova. I would like to point out the relevance of the dissertation. It analyzes the phonetic aspect of the Russian speech of Tajik, of bilingual Tajiks, and identifies the phonetic interference with the use of a large volume of empirical material based on this, and the results of the research give us an opportunity to improve the Russian language of bilinguals who speak Tajik as their mother tongue. I think the originality of the work is that that it identifies how suprasegmental characteristics of Russian speech of different types are realized, different types of spontaneous speech and reading by Tajik speakers. I think that this involves a large experiment with auditors of Tajik speakers, as an instrument of the study. The applicant uses computer software, and this is a plus. As a result, the author concludes that that the phonetic interference changes with the mastering of the second language and the duration of living in the new environment, and this is an important factor that impacts on some features of pronunciation, and of course this gives us the assurance that this work can be used practically in teaching Russian. Some drawbacks, of course, are there as well, and some mistakes on pages 48, 49 in spelling, in the spelling of Persian words. On page 63, the author says that 6 auditors speak the Pamir language. I think the Pamir languages would be the correct, because there's a family of Pamir languages, and the practical system of some Pamir languages differs from the phonetic system of the Tajik language. So you should pay attention to this in your future work. Also, I would like to you to draw on the work of the Tajik sociolinguist Professor Shambizad, who specializes in bilingualism and polylingualism of Pamir language speakers, speakers of Pamir languages. Nevertheless, my conclusion is that the dissertation work of Marina Pavlovna is an original work, very interesting work, and it meets the key requirements of the procedure of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University, and therefore Marina Pavlovna Agafonova deserves to be awarded the sought degree, candidate of philological sciences. Thank you. Thank you very much, Manisha Barakovna. Just a few words from me now. Again, I like this work very, very much. In this work, this is not only logical, this is designed in a good way. It's thought through in a good way. Well, the respondents selected in a good way. Working with children is so difficult. These respondents belong to different social strata, different professions, occupations, different age groups, and because you recorded spontaneous speech and reading, I thought that reading is so difficult. I tested it on me. When the whole country read from the War and Peace, only half, 1 hour, 1.5 pages I had to read and record. A very philosophical excerpt. And I found out that it was so difficult. I actually can say that I haven't done anything more difficult in my life, and unbelievable, because I am a public figure. I speak to the microphone all the time, but for me it was so difficult to read. For me, as for prosodics, where do I make pauses, and this is a highly intellectual process. So I like your work very, very much, and I wish you success. I have no questions to you. Thank you. I have a question. Do you have any questions? Yes, please ask a question. And I would like to reiterate again, those who are present here in the room, Manish Barakovna can ask questions. Why do you acquire interest in this topic? Yes, please answer this question now. This is a spontaneous question. I planned interference study, and I chose Tajikistan because among my students there were more Tajik speakers than any other speakers, but for students I had no problem to select respondents, but it was so difficult to attract children. Well, dictators or the auditors are easy to was easy to select, and when I, of course, communicated as part of my study, when I started talking to my students outside the study subject area, I found out a lot about them, and it was really a revelation for me as far as the culture is concerned. And now you have a chance to answer questions. Thank you very much for your critical remarks, and this will be a foundation for my future work. Every question is very interesting. I'll be short, but I will not make a discussion out of them. Thank you, everyone, for pointing out typos and mistakes in translation. And I will just focus on conceptual remarks. The first one is that bilingualism of Tajik speakers is not bilingualism as such. They spoke different languages, and they spoke Pamir languages, Turkmen language, and in order to find people who spoke only Tajik and Russian, it was not possible, and therefore I made a decision that I would first record that Tajik was their mother tongue, and then the speakers who spoke Russian as their mother tongue too, and then I expanded that, and of course I expanded the inventory of different features, and especially in speakers in Uzbek languages and Tajik languages, and this is my future work. I didn't put into a separate group such speakers because statistically people that spoke Tajik and Russian as their second language, or Tajik and Russian as their mother tongues, statistically they are not significant. Well, therefore, I didn't put them into different groups. As far as age groups, this is significant. As far as Pamir languages, and well, when I spoke Tajik, when I asked my respondents if they spoke any other languages besides Tajik and Russian, they said I speak a Pamir language, and I never could elicit out of them which Pamir language they spoke, or if they spoke different Pamir languages. So this remark from you is very important for me. The next question: why when I recorded speakers, there were only three speakers that spoke Russian in the family. All the others spoke Tajik in their family, but these speakers actually prompted me to create a perceptive experiment, because the Russian speakers the real bilinguals speak a very interesting, very special variant of Russian, because Russian of Dushanbe, spoken in Dushanbe, is different than Russian spoken in Russia, and therefore this is also interference. Even if they speak Russian in the family, they speak the Russian that is an object of interference already. As far as the experiment with the word accent, this is not part of the main study of the body of the research, and of course in reading a lot of speakers stumbled over unknown words, and especially the phrase "лучи заходящего солнца," which they always made a mistake in "лучи" instead of "лучи," and I helped them, but I tried to identify what characteristics are significant. And of course, as I agree with you that I should have first taught them what stress is actually, instead of asking them in the experiment. And as far as the degree of confidence in their answer, sometimes they couldn't, they didn't know what a vowel is and what a consonant is, but they just guessed, but said that they were confident, and of course that messed up the picture. And as far as the some other features with intonation length and the intensity are also an avenue for further research. As far as the errors in reading, and I agree that reading is very hard. When I started reading, my level of stress went up, children, in fact, were very happy to read when they were asked to tell me about their life. They were less forthcoming, but when they saw a book, they reached for it and they started reading it, and they became calm. As far as the older people, they actually were confused, and because they didn't know how to read this or that word, and they always asked me where the stress is, and they were afraid to make a mistake. Therefore, that's different. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dear members of the Dissertation Committee, are you all happy with the answers from Marina Pavlovna? Yes, yeah, judging by the nods, they are. Therefore, the next is to the colleagues who are present here in the room. Do we have anyone willing to speak up? Do you have any questions? Then the time for the academic supervisor to speak up. Dear colleagues, well, you've read the work, but I will let you know what I think about the candidate. He's a very thoughtful person, very reliable as a researcher, leaving out no details. So when, for the period of me observing her, she has always been very scrupulous in her research. So it was an honor for me to be part of this work. I also noted that novella that not everything changes with the time of living in Russia, in an environment. If you don't listen to hear, you don't imitate, don't produce. It's a motto of theory. But what Tatiana Vladimirovna said, what we lose when we go abroad, first thing we use is intonation, and the main thing is to mimic her. When we go abroad, we try to speak the way the people speak there, but we cannot change our system of expression, but we try to change what we can as the intonation. And so thank you very much. This is my conclusion. Thank you for your attention. I don't want to expect the positive verdict, but I already congratulate Marina Nikolaevna on the feedback from the committee. Do we have anyone here who would like to speak? I experience nostalgic feelings. I want to go back to the phonetics department. Well, such a great school, such a good accuracy of research. Thank you very much. This is the result of it. No takers for. Then the discussion is over. And before we vote, I'd like to ask members of the Dissertation Committee and the applicant, do you have any objections or questions as to the procedure of conducting this session, including technological issues? I have to receive an answer from everyone. No comments, no critical remarks, no critical remarks. I have no critical remarks. I have no objections, no critical remarks. Thank you. Then we turn to the next item, is the voting. Dear colleagues, before I start the vote, we can declare a break to discuss the broadcast. Do we need such a break? I think that we don't need anything. I don't think we do. So that we continue then our session, and I would like to open the roll call vote, and my time is 12:40 Moscow time. The coordinator. Therefore, well, let us check whether we can see each other and hear each other. Yes, everything is good. Therefore, I put to the vote a resolution of awarding Maria Pavlovna Agafonova an academic degree of candidate of philological sciences. I would like to stress that by voting in favor of this, every member of the Dissertation Committee agrees that Clause 11 of the procedure is not violated by the applicant, and this clause reads that in the dissertation the applicant must refer to the author or the source of a citation of materials or individual results, in using in the dissertation the results of academic works that have been conducted by the applicant himself in isolation or in co-authorship. The applicant must note in the dissertation this circumstance. Therefore, this is the clause of the plagiarism, the so-called plagiarism clause. Now, I'd like to ask every member of the Dissertation Committee. Apollinaria, second. I think that the applicant deserves the academic. I vote for. Svetlana Viktorovna Drosova, your opinion? I think that I vote for the decision to award the degree. Yelena Valentina Yerofeeva, your opinion? She deserves. I agree. Vote for the awarding of degree. Manisha Barakam Latmir. I support the awarding of the degree. As a chairperson of the committee, Tatiana Vladimirovna Chernigovskaya, I vote in favor. It's very strong word. So the counting of votes, therefore, it was not hard to do. All members unanimously think that we can award the degree of candidate of philological sciences in the degree field 100219, Linguistic Theory, to Marina, Pavlovna, Agafonova. Unanimous vote. No one abstained, no one voted against it. Your concluding remarks. I would like to thank the members of the Dissertation Committee for thoughtful and close reading of my work and for the ideas for future research. And I'd like to thank my research supervisor, Professor Krelin, and Svetlana Olegovna for the close reading, and Nina Borisovna Volskaya, who is not with us anymore, who was my original research supervisor, and she influenced the choice of this topic. And thank you very much. This has been a long road, but I've covered it. Thank you. Thank you very much to you. And I would like to congratulate the candidate with brilliant defense, and the Department of Phonetics and the Laboratory of Experimental Phonetics on the wonderful success again. And the session is therefore closed. I thank everyone for participation. Broadcast must be switched off.